So we are living in very interesting times. Insha'Allah ta'ala, we hope insha'Allah when history is written that the types of incidents we are seeing in these very days, they will go down in the books of history as some of the most significant turning points, as some of the most significant catalysts that indicate insha'Allah ta'ala the change in tide. When history is written and insha'Allah, the land known as Israel will no longer be the apartheid regime that it is today, and history will track when that change has occurred. What we are seeing in these very days, these very iconic, amazing incidents, we hope inshallah they will be recorded as the primary catalyst that indicated that shift in heart. SubhanAllah, brothers and sisters, we are now almost 2 years, 1 year and 9 months since this tragedy began. Allahul Musta'an. When is the end in sight? Only Allah knows. And yet the reality of so many high profile people, the reality of people that don't even have iman in Allah, but their humanity, their conscience is forcing them to put their own lives, to undertake expeditions, to hire boats. These are non-government actors. These are people that have no relationship with a country. They're not getting paid by any entity. These are people that have wealth and fame, and they are risking their lives to try to bring aid to the people of Gaza, not knowing what is going to happen. And wallahi, this is a very, very amazing development that inshallah we hope will bode well for the future. So today I wanted to just share some reflections and thoughts. There's a lot to unpack here. First and foremost, the simple reality that we should be aware of as Muslims, and in fact we don't even need to quote the Quran and the Seerah for this, it is a lived reality, and that is, yes, it is true without a doubt that Iman is the most important factor in our relationship with Allah. But the Quran and the Seerah indicate that you have people who don't have Iman, and yet they also have aspects of positive humanity. It's not mutually exclusive. As for their fate in the hereafter, that's a separate reality. In this world, there are people who do not have Iman in Allah, but the Quran praises that they have aspects of good akhlaq and manners. Multiple verses in the Quran. Do you not know in Surah Al-Imran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there are people, they're Ahl Kitab, if you were to give them an entire treasure, they would honestly safeguard it and give you back the full treasure. Allah says, praising another group of non-Muslims in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that is because this group, they have people who have shunned this world. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ مِنْهُمْ قِصِّيصِينَ وَرُهْبَانًا وَأَنَّهُمْ لَا يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. They have no desire to live in this world luxuriously, and they have no kibr in their hearts. Allah describes groups of non-Muslims, praising them, that they're not desiring this dunya. They don't have arrogance in their hearts. Another group of non-Muslims, of Ahl Kitab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when they hear what is being recited to you, you find that their eyes tear up and they are, finding an element of spirituality even though they're not belonging to our faith, but they find aspects of good in our religion. And of course, the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions many such incidents of getting help of non-Muslims, praising non-Muslims. This is the reality. The incident of the hijrah, we all are aware. The Prophet ﷺ hired Abdullah ibn Urayqit, who was not a Muslim, but he was a trustworthy guide. And he would willingly take a small honorarium, a small salary from the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr, and not take 100 camels from the Quraysh that was bribing them. The Quraysh was bribing 100 camels to tell us where the Prophet ﷺ was. And he gave that up because he was a man of principle. He was a man who would not take a bribe over what he had agreed to. And another famous incident in the seerah, Utbah ibn Rabi'ah. Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, if you look at the seerah, the people who opposed Islam, you can categorize them into a number of categories. Utbah is one of those categories where, generally speaking, we don't find from him extreme coarseness and rudeness, nor do we find an interest in Islam. He was a through and through politician and senior leader and a man of principle amongst his people. Utbah was the one who fed the grapes in the Ta'if incident. That was Utbah. He owned the farms. He saw what happened and he had pity. That, how come they do this to the Prophet ﷺ, even though he's not a Muslim? And he ordered Adas to give the grapes. That is the Utbah. In the Battle of Badr, what did Utbah do? And the Prophet ﷺ praised him indirectly. In the Battle of Badr, Utbah, by the engineering of a number of senior diplomats of the Quraysh. This is the reality in all societies. You have people, they might not be believers, but they believe in fairness and equality and justice. And before the Battle of Badr, 3 or 4 senior politicians from the side of the Quraysh, including Hakim ibn Hizam, who eventually became Muslim, including Utbah ibn Rabi'ah and others. Utbah, by the way, is the grandfather of Muawiyah. Muawiyah's mother is who? Who? Hind bint Utbah. Muawiyah's mother is Hind. So Hind's father is Utbah. This is that Utbah. Muawiyah's grandfather is Utbah. And before the Battle of Badr, when the two armies are lined up, negotiations began in the political camp of the Quraysh. Internal discord. Hakim ibn Hizam and Utbah and others were leading the internal political discord against Abu Jahl. Against Abu Jahl. And what was their point? They weren't Muslims. They didn't say the Prophet is a prophet, how come we fight him? They said, why are we shedding our own blood? We're one people. So what if they have another religion? Do we have to go to war? Common sense. They're not invoking Islam. They're invoking the principles of their people, which happen to be correct and good. You don't need to fight and kill people if they have a different religion, especially if they're our own kith and kin. And Utbah jumped on. He had a very expensive camel, very beautiful camel. It was shining red, dark brown or light brown. They called it red. The Arabs call that type of, the luxurious color of the camel, they call it red. We would call it, let's say, a shade of brown, but it's like shining in the desert. So he had one of the most beautiful camels. He jumped on that camel and he began rushing through the ranks of the Quraysh as they're lined up. And he's saying, oh my people, listen to me, heed my advice. Why are we fighting our own kith and kin? Can you imagine after the battle, you're going to see the very person who killed your father, your brother, and he's on our side. How would you like it? The person who killed your own family members, and you're going to have to socialize with them. Just let it be. And he's not a Muslim. He didn't love Islam. He's not using Islam. What he said, listen, if the Prophet ﷺ, we let him be, he said Muhammad, he called him, if we let him be, and the other tribes, get rid of them, at least your hands will be free. You don't have to do any evil deed. And if he overcomes the other tribes, then surely in his victory, there's also benefit for the Quraysh. He's our member in the end of the day, right? And the Prophet ﷺ was watching Utbah. He cannot hear him. He's far away. He was watching Utbah in the distance. The Muslims are seeing Utbah run back and forth. And he's saying something. What did the Prophet ﷺ say before the Battle of Badr? He said to his people, if there is any good in the Quraysh, they will listen to the man on the red camel. If there's any good in the Quraysh, they will listen to this man who's a man of principle. What is the Prophet ﷺ doing? He is indirectly praising the principles, even though they're not coming from Islam. But these principles are humanitarian principles. They make sense. And if the people had good, they would listen to the man on the red camel. In our times, these Hollywood actors, these global activists that are giving up their fame and their career, and they're putting themselves on the line, we say to our peoples, if there's any good in you, you will listen to these very people. They are our equivalents of Utbah and the man on the red camel. And other examples from the seerah, the long lecture I have given multiple times, you can look at online, but the summary of it, one of the greatest politicians of pre-Islam, who never accepted Islam, and yet he helped the Prophet ﷺ more than any other non-Muslim after his uncle Abu Talib. Of course, Abu Talib is number one in terms of help. Nobody helped Islam as a non-Muslim more than Abu Talib. But number two after Abu Talib was who? Mut'im ibn Adi. Mut'im ibn Adi, and he did a lot of things. I've given entire lectures about how many things he has done for early Islam, for the Muslims. Mut'im ibn Adi was the one who fed the Muslims when they were being boycotted in the Sha'b of the Bani Hashim. Mut'im would come every few weeks and he would anonymously, he would give of his own money. He would purchase a camel, load it up with grain and food and water. In the middle of the night, he would walk and he would send it into the valley. That's going to cost like the equivalent of maybe $100,000, a full camel loaded with food. And why did he do it? Because he felt bad hearing the babies cry at night. That's literally what the books say, that you could hear the babies cry, in the valley of the Sha'b of Banu Hashim, the Sha'b that they were in. You could hear the children cry from hunger. And Mut'im felt, how can we do this to our own people? They're our own tribe in the end of the day. So he would secretly go and he would give food to the Muslims. Also, when the incident happened of the process coming back from Ta'if, right? And he didn't have Abu Lahab had revoked his visa, as the saying goes, right? The status to remain in Mecca. Abu Lahab had told him, you're no longer welcome in Mecca. That's why he went to Ta'if. On the way back, he couldn't enter Mecca because he didn't have his alleged passport. The technical term is aman. So the chieftain of the tribe revoked the Prophet's Qurashi cards, credentials. So you're not allowed to be here. So how is he going to come into Mecca? So he camped outside of Mecca. And he sent Bilal to multiple other tribes. Banu Hashim has rejected. Banu Hashim has cancelled. So he sent to Abu Sufyan. He sent to Al-Walid ibn Khalid ibn al-Walid's father, Al-Walid from the Banu Makhzum. He sent to other tribes as well. All of them gave an excuse and refused. Until finally, the fourth or fifth person, Bilal knocked on the door. Bilal knocked on the door of Mut'im ibn Adi. And he says, your nephew, the distant nephew, your nephew, Muhammad ﷺ is camped outside. You know his situation. He's asking, can you provide the aman, the visa? Can you provide the aman to allow him to come back to his home city? And Mut'im in the middle of the night took his own 4 sons, armed them in case that the Quraysh attack, the Banu Hashim attack. He walked outside of Mecca, physically escorted the Prophet ﷺ inside along with his own sons in the middle of the night. The next morning, he slept in Mut'im's house. The next morning, Mut'im marched him in front of the Kaaba. And Mut'im stood up, held up the Prophet's hand as he's the chieftain. He says, everybody listen up. I have given him my aman. And everybody was in shock. And Abu Jahl didn't know what to say because that's his right, Mut'im's right. So Abu Jahl asked him, are you giving him aman because you have followed him? Or are you giving aman because you are the chieftain and he's going to be under you? And he said, no, I have not followed him, but I am who I am. This is my position. Abu Jahl said, in that case, you have the right. We cannot say anything to this, right? And Mut'im had many other things as well. In the Battle of Badr, Mut'im was not present. He had passed away before the Battle of Badr. He didn't witness Badr. He had passed away 1 week before Badr. In the Battle of Badr, when the Prophet ﷺ captured 72 of the Quraysh, and he would ransom them off for massive fortune. The equivalent of millions would be given for all of them. 72 would be ransomed off. The Prophet publicly said in front of the Quraysh, in front of the Muslims, he said a statement recorded in Sahih Bukhari, recorded in Sirat ibn Hisham. What did he say? He said, if Mut'im ibn Adi were still alive right now, and he just said to me one word to free all of these people and give them back to him, I would have freed all of them for his sake. He is praising Mut'im who died, an idol-worshipping mushrik pagan. He is praising Mut'im publicly. This is the equivalent of giving a medal of honor. This is the equivalent of honoring. Like sometimes we have a non-Muslim does something, we might invite him to a convention of ours and thank him on stage. Thank you for doing this and that, right? Unfortunately, some of our, hot-headed youngsters don't understand and they start raising hue and cry, you invited a kafir, you invited this and that. Ya akhi, what is kufr got to do with helping humanity? The two are separate things. You can be a kafir and you can have good principles to help humanity. When we praise the non-Muslim for the good that they do, we are praising them for the good that they do. It's that simple. So no issue at all. The Prophet is praising Mut'im even after Mut'im dies. A praise that legacy is created and the name of Mut'im is associated with helping Islam. We have plenty of Mut'ims in our times. We should do the equivalent of the Prophet ﷺ by thanking them in this manner. Thanking them, appreciating them, has nothing to do with their iman, their salvation. We're not talking about that. We're simply appreciating the good that they are doing. And as a general rule, those whose akhlaq are the best pre-Islam are the closest to be guided to Islam. Our Prophet ﷺ said, hadith is in Tirmidhi and others, خَيْرُكُمْ فِي الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ خَيْرُكُمْ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ. The best of you in Jahiliyyah are going to be the best in Islam as long as they have the fiqh and understanding of the religion. So people of good akhlaq, actually this is inshallah a positive sign that they're close to Islam. And these people that are involved in these movements, I encourage the Muslims around them to be brave, to be bold, and to introduce them to the theology, the iman of Islam, the teachings of Islam, and we hope inshallah ta'ala the best for them. Now, therefore, to summarize this before we move on, we have to avoid the two extremes that unfortunately are all too common. When such, Hollywood actors, when such people that have lifestyles that might not be in accordance with our religion, when, people of other faiths, when they do these types of things, some groups amongst us go to one extreme, others go to the other extreme. And we are the ummah wasat. The one extreme is to actually belittle, to make fun of, to trivialize, say, oh, these are kuffar, who cares what they do? No, that's a very unrealistic attitude. And the Prophet ﷺ benefited. Go back to the seerah. How was the boycott broken? The boycott was broken. The boycott in Mecca was broken when senior politicians from within the Quraysh broke ranks against the Quraysh. They didn't embrace Islam. Those people who broke the boycott, none of them embraced Islam. But they realized this is not un-Islamic, it is uncivil, it's unjust, it goes against our culture and society. And they stood up and they fought their own people. And the Prophet ﷺ accepted that break and he entered back into Mecca, didn't he? He was appreciative of them breaking that, boycott that they had. We are the same equivalent in this regard. So that is one extreme, that just because we don't agree with their theology or their lifestyles, we can still praise them. The other extreme, of course, is to say, oh, these people are better than Muslims. These people are better than Muslims. And that is another extreme, because without a doubt, iman in Allah is the biggest piety. Iman in Allah, you cannot equate that with feeding the poor. You cannot equate that with, even if they're risking their lives, we are very grateful for that. And we ask Allah to bless them in this world, and we ask Allah to guide them. But without a doubt, iman in Allah is more important than feeding the hungry. Now obviously, ideally, iman in Allah and doing this, which leads me to my final point, which is a very awkward point. And that is that there's a lot of cynicism and a lot of even anger amongst many of us, that isn't it shameful that non-Muslim Hollywood actors and politicians are doing more than the entirety of the Muslim world? And what can be said to that? There's an element of truth. I mean, I sympathize with this sentiment. Isn't it shameful that, one of the famous Hollywood actors was on that boat, that a little young lady whose entire life is activism, she is now on that boat. And there are one or two Muslims as well, but they're not like, they're just politicians who happen to be Muslim. We're grateful for their presence, but where's the ummah? Where's the rest of the ummah? And I sympathize with that sentiment. I'm just pointing out facts, and that is, there is a privilege that comes being a Hollywood actor. There's a privilege that comes being from Switzerland and Sweden and Europe. Frankly, sorry to be blunt here, with white skin. There's a privilege that comes. If this boat had a bunch of brown-skinned, Pakistanis and Arabs on it, in all likelihood, it wouldn't be coming back. And that country would have invented some excuse, and they would have said, oh, we saw a gun and whatnot, and that's it, all gone. So there is privilege that comes with being who these people are. I'm just saying these are facts here. Now, What if that privilege, we were to use it as a catalyst of the first of many other such expeditions? This is a tactic that perhaps activists should think about. Because how many boats could be stopped? How many buses that are clearly saying, hey, we just have food, we just have baby food, we're not coming to fight, we're not coming for weapons. Imagine if a global entire movement began where multiple groups of people, Muslim and non-Muslim, multiple backgrounds, they all started doing something, humanitarian efforts. This is a tactic that definitely activists should think of. But in the end of the day, what we are seeing and saying is that without a doubt the tide has changed. I said this a year and a half ago, that when this debacle started, I said that insha'Allah ta'ala this is the beginning of the end. I said this from here multiple times. Now, without a doubt, global analysts, people that are not even of our faith, are unanimously saying that this apartheid regime known as Israel has lost the PR battle globally. Now, publicly, the sentiment to be pro-Palestinian is a global movement. Almost the entirety of the Western world, especially amongst the masses, by large percentages are now anti-Israel and apartheid. The history of this region, the global conflict, even, these pundits who were the most ridiculous, and I don't want to mention names, but the media guy who's always inviting and saying, do you condemn Hamas and this and all these people? I mean, subhanAllah, even they are finally, better late than never, finally changing their tune. The United Kingdom, way late. They're the ones who started all of this back in 1917. At least finally they're banning some Israeli politicians, right? Norway and Spain have been ahead of the curve for many months and years. They have a permanent now, Palestinian embassy, alhamdulillah. I mean, major things are happening, right? Even Canada now changing its tune. Really only our government, not even the people of this country, only our government, and even within the government, finally in the right and the left, there are many Mut'im ibn Adis, many Utbah ibn Rabi'as, many people who are dissenting from the mainstream. And this is just a matter of time. I predict not decades, years, where the entire globe will boycott this pariah state. Its roots, its evil has now become manifest to the entire globe. And the irony of ironies, the Palestinian brothers and sisters, their sacrifice in some way has actually paid off. Their sabr, the blood that they have lost, subhanallah. And it's up to them, they have done this, I didn't ask them to do this, but their sabr and their patience, it actually has caused an entire global shift. And this is what happens when Allah is on your side. The world did not help them. Sadly, the ummah did not help them. We ask Allah's refuge, we seek Allah's forgiveness. We didn't do what we needed to do. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifested their sacrifices amongst the globe, where you have Hollywood actors. I mean, think about it. They're not getting they're losing fans. Many of them will no longer have a career in Hollywood. People are speaking out for Gaza on stages in Hollywood, in DC, across the country, sports directors, people that are managing clubs. They're the ones, politicians, like football players. They're all coming out in support of Gaza. And I understand there's frustration. Why aren't the ummah doing something? So may we use their verbal tactics as the catalyst for us, because we needed them. Fact of the matter is, they are the ones, when they do it, they're going to be the ones ahead of us because they have some protection that we don't have. But the floodgates have been opened. So we hope, insha'Allah ta'ala, that with the opening of this floodgates, I strongly urge all activists, all people who have a vision and a plan to now get on board and do something for us. Tell us what needs to be done. I'm not a political analyst. All I can do is see that the tide is changing and make dua. But we hope, insha'Allah ta'ala, there is now light at the end of the tunnel. We hope that, insha'Allah ta'ala, all that we are seeing now, it is the beginning of the end of the pariah state of Israel. We pray that, insha'Allah ta'ala, the people of that land, all of them, and we make dua even for the people that are living by principles and the non-Muslims in that region. Anybody who wants to live in that land with peace and safety. We are not anti any group. We are anti-Zionist, as I keep on saying. We're not anti-faith. We're anti-Zionist. So anybody who wants to live peacefully and give equal rights to everybody, we want a land where people can live a dignified life over there. And we hope, insha'Allah ta'ala, this will be the catalyst that will bring that about. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to see a free Palestine and free brothers and sisters in Gaza, and allow them the dignity that all of us also have. Wa jazakumullahu khairan.